Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Cecilia Thompson, and today I will be presenting the preliminary results of my senior research thesis, which is a synoptic assessment of bottlenose dolphin distribution in Boca Ciega Bay and the coastal Gulf of Mexico using autonomous acoustic recorders. I first want to highlight some key background information. Tampa Bay is a large, highly productive estuary. It's characterized by extensive seagrass beds, which serve as an important habitat for fish species preyed upon by dolphins. Estimates have shown that the local population is about 400 individuals, and prior studies have indicated that the mouth of Lower Tampa Bay, which is just south of Fort DeSoto within Egmont Channel, is a hotspot for these animals. As odontocetes or tooth cetaceans, bottlenose dolphins are heavily reliant on sound in their day-to-day lives, whether it be for foraging, navigation, or communication. These sounds serve as a proxy for distribution and behavior. These animals have an impressive acoustic repertoire. One sound that they produce is echolocation, which is used in foraging and navigation. They also produce whistles, which are used for contact and recognition. This study is a distribution study. This type of research has a number of biological and ecological implications. One of those being that we can use this research to locate important foraging grounds. We can study residency or strong site fidelity among individual animals, and it also provides critical information regarding predator-prey dynamics. A previous study has suggested that bottlenose dolphin distribution varies in response to the physical environment, such as water temperature or topography, as well as a number of biological factors, such as local prey distribution and abundance and predation pressure. There's two different ways to perform distribution studies, one of those being visual surveys, which are boat-based and consist of photo ID work. However, these surveys often result in spatial and temporal undersampling due to the lack of time that we can spend in the field as a result of bad weather, nighttime, etc. So we can resort to autonomous acoustic surveys, which is what was used in this study. These have a number of benefits, one being that sound propagates really well in water. Additionally, bottlenose dolphins, although they are air-breathing mammals, do spend the majority of the time beneath the surface. So we can use these surveys to eavesdrop, so to speak, on the dolphins and see what they're doing and where they're distributed at night and in bad weather when we couldn't be out in the field doing visual surveys. These surveys operate over large spatial and temporal scales, so we can collect large data sets. With that said, the research objectives for this study was to investigate dolphin distribution in Boca Ciega Bay and the adjacent Gulf Coast of Mexico. We looked for both seasonal and spatial trends. We used this information to infer behavior, and ultimately the goal was to identify high-use areas for conservation and management purposes. All data was collected in the field using stationary autonomous acoustic recorders, specifically the DSG or digital spectrogram recorders, which were calibrated along with the hydrophones accordingly. These recorders operate on what is called a duty cycle, meaning that they collect 10 seconds worth of recording every 10 minutes. Additionally, these recorders were fixed with in situ water temperature data loggers. All 7 stations used in this study were a part of a deployment of 9 recorders operated by the Eckerd College Dolphin Project. 3 of the stations we looked at were located in Boca Ciega Bay. 3 were located in passes between Boca Ciega Bay and the Gulf of Mexico. And we had 1 station located in the Gulf, as this was the only operational Gulf station at the time of the study. In terms of data analysis, in total, we analyzed 7 winter days and 7 summer days. Dolphin sounds were categorized and individually counted using the software program Raven Pro on 1024-point spectrogram resolution. Detection rates were then calculated as detections per hour per kilometer squared. Detections were summed across habitat types, those being lagoon, pass, and gulf, and pooled into 24-hour periods for analysis. We used an active space algorithm in MATLAB in order to correct for geographic spreading loss and ambient noise. We then performed statistical tests in SPSS. Specifically, we did a one-way Welch's ANOVA and Tiki Poke Hawk tests. On the top here, I've provided a spectrographic view of a whistle, which is identified as narrow band frequency modulations, or simply frequency changes over time. Below here, I provided a spectrographic view of echolocation, which is simply identified as broadband clicks. In terms of results, an analysis of variance determined that there was significant variation of dolphin detection rates across both seasons. Again, those seasons being summer and winter, and the different habitat types being lagoon, pass, and gulf. In regard to seasonal variation, a Tukey Poke Hawk test revealed that seasonal variation in echolocation rates was significant at the pass stations. However, we did not find any seasonal variation in whistle detection rates, or it was not significant. In terms of spatial variation for echolocation, we found it to be significant between the lagoon habitat, between the pass habitat, as well as between the pass habitat and the gulf habitat. In regard to whistle spatial variation, we also found this to be significant between lagoon habitat and pass habitat, and between lagoon and gulf habitats. So what do these results mean? Well, they directly support the previously stated idea that the mouth of Lower Tampa Bay in Egmont Channel is a hotspot for dolphins. This is the location of our recording station named Pass 3. Previous studies have also suggested that mean dolphin density is higher in the summer. This may be attributed to the fact that both transient or offshore bottlenose, as well as Atlantic spotted dolphins, follow schools of mullet inshore to passes and nearshore Gulf habitat during the summer, which is why we may have seen higher dolphin detection rates in these habitats at this time of year. I also want to highlight the importance of passes for specialized habitat use, which is something that we noticed in this study with higher echolocation detection rates in the passes. And these results also support a hypothesis stated by a number of prior studies that dolphins spend increased time in passes, especially during the winter months. And we saw this for both echolocation and whistle detection rates. On the bigger picture, these results have a number of conservation management and policy implications. We can identify hotspots, foraging and calving grounds. We can establish protected areas, combustion exclusion zones, and minimum speed zones for boaters. In regard to study limitations, I want to indicate that the lack of sound does not mean that dolphins are absent from the area. So at our boca or lagoon habitat stations, just because the detection rates were lower, may not mean that dolphins aren't there. It may just mean that they're vocalizing less than they are in passes or in the Gulf. Additionally, clipping or high ambient noise in the acoustic files can decrease our ability to detect dolphins. And the two non-operational recorders in the Gulf at the time of this study did limit the sample size of data that we had for Gulf habitat. However, it's important to note that the habitat of the Gulf is relatively homogeneous compared to that of the lagoon or pass stations. Future research moving forward with the thesis will look at the effect of mean water temperature on dolphin distribution, and we will be refining our statistical analysis. In conclusion, I just want to reemphasize that dolphin sound production serves as a proxy for distribution and acoustic behavior. The mouth of Lower Tampa Bay has been identified as a high-use area, and that passes are an important foraging ground. Stay tuned for more with my thesis defense in May. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my co-authors and research advisors, Dr. Peter Smarge, Dr. Shannon Gowans, and Dr. David Mann, as well as the entire Eckerd College Dolphin Project. All photos in this presentation were taken under proper permits. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, and at this time I can take any questions.